My name is Nathalie Anguezomo Mba Bikoro. My mother's name is Claude Mba Bikoro Perrin. My grandmother's name was Jeanne Perrin. And my great-grandmother's name was Sabine. So I have this tattoo on me. It's a poem from Naira Vahid. She's one of my favorite Moroccan poets. And she wrote this: "My mother was my first country, and her water clings to my wrists. It has been my fragrance since birth." Yeah, I had to learn that, losing a child is part also of creation. You can only create also when when the universe also breaks. It has to be like this. But it takes a long time, to find your own ritual and your own time to process the guilt, to process the shame, because it doesn't belong with you. It's not meant to be there. And when this happens, it's a natural process. Of course you think that, but it's not because of you, and it's not because of anybody else. You have to say that it was not the time for that child. In the hospitals, I say, "Oh, you lost your fetus." So me and my husband immediately, we say it's our child. And I was also very surprised that my husband was also falling apart, actually. He was very emotional about it, and he was crying for a couple of weeks with me. So what happened to me actually after the miscarriage is that I felt completely separated from my body. I didn't recognize my body. I didn't want to look at my body because I didn't recognize it. So it took me a while, and then I would break down and scream. But my husband said something very important. He said, when you scream like this, it's not your voice. I'm hearing the voice of your grandmother. My grandmother, so her mother has always been in France, in Nîmes, in the south of France, which is next to Montpellier. So I saw her when I was a baby. I don't remember, of course, for the visiting and to get the French passport. Also, it was the time that I had to get the second name, which was Natalie, because I was not born Natalie, it came later. I was born Anguezomo. And then when I had my French papers for the French embassy, they basically told my parents that no, she must have a Christian name in order for her to have a French passport. And so it's still complicated because it's still an issue that is going on even today. And basically it was my grandfather, so her father, who chose the name for me, Natalie. So that came later. In my very early childhood, my mother, she was working as a French teacher there at the time. And my father, he was often not at home because he was working as an engineer. And that means he had to travel outside to different cities or to the sea, to the coast. And so she was often alone. And then they moved to another city in the center of Gabon, near Franceville, but it was like then a secluded village because it was like the French village. So there were other French and Canadian couples or families living there. And she told me that she went back to work very quickly, only after 2 months after giving birth to me. And she told me that I had a local young girl, a Gabonese girl who took care of me and who breastfed me as well. While she was working. So it's one of the things she said, that she regretted that a lot, to have to go back to work so early. When she was staying with my dad's family in Okok, which is next to Bitam, on the borders to Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea, she felt quite isolated because my father wasn't there, and she had some difficulties to learn the local language, of course, and because she was the the French white woman, it was not really possible for her to be completely included in the family because of the politics, hierarchies, and also the constellations of the women there with the aunts and the cousins. You know, there's always, as in life, you know, some either jealousies or things like that. So she thought it was very difficult to, sometimes she felt like a single mom, she told me, because my dad couldn't be there so often. And when he was there, he had to really take care of her as well, you know, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically. I was diagnosed with leukemia cancer, and that could not be treated in Gabon, Libreville, and then they told my parents I only had 2 months to live. So it was my father's family, my grandfather, but also my grandfather, my mother's dad, who helped invest for them to move to the Netherlands and get enough finances for the treatment. So I was put into a special department, hospital in Assen for cancers for young children. Because at the time in the 80s they didn't know what it was and they needed more research, so they had just opened this new department and they had selected about, I think, around 40 international kids, and I was one of them. And so basically I spent 4 years there, and it was just you know, a scientific experiment, so they could find out, you know, what caused this cancer, what was the best cure. And I think at the end of the treatment, by the time I left, there were only 12 of us left 4 years later. At the time, it was mostly my mom who was there. When I had my cancer, she was very sick. She had, how do you say, anorexia for a few years because of this, and she had lost her job. And so whenever she could, she would come to the hospital and see me and spend time with me, because she would have thought that this would be the end, that this would be finished. And even when we were there, the doctors there had told her that I probably wouldn't make it, or give me 30 days and that was finished. So it's all of this kind of made her very sick. My grandmother was very easy. She was a very open-hearted person, and she didn't have any issues actually with my parents marrying. She supported it, but my grandfather had big issues, and I only got to understand that when I used to go to visit them in the holidays or in the summer. And he, you know, all his racist jokes will come out, or he will tell us. My cousin, she's half Moroccan, and so he will tell us, like, you know, go and wash yourselves until you're really clean. No, you're not clean. You have to scrub until it's white. Things like this, like, yeah, complete different perception. And my grandmother used to correct him, but you know, not all the time when she could not be there. I wouldn't say my grandmother or my mother brought me as a girl. I don't think it's true. I don't think they genderized my position. They just wanted to make me grow as a human being, first of all. But they also forgot that I'm still a mixed child. And this is what they missed. It was important for me, and it's still important to me now, and I didn't have access to that because it was part of my protection. If I knew, if I understood. My mother, being inside a you know, mixed race family, had to learn a lot, but she never really understood or acknowledged or learned from the complexities and the politics of it, that for her that she needs to talk about. She went through a lot of trauma as a woman, but also as a wife of my dad, yeah. And she would have never envisaged the type of struggle she would have had to go through, and she never had an outlet or ritual. Definitely the one thing that I don't want to pass on that she taught me is how to be silent. Because also when you are with so much pain, you know, I grew up in this hospital, every day you are just in pain. it just doesn't stop. The pain don't stop. So what you do, you just, you know, you kind of become like a stone. And this is what happened. She never told me to exercise that, to talk about it, because no, your father doesn't want to hear about it, you know. Oh no, it doesn't, you know, nobody wants to hear that. So it's kind of like, and for me it's very, in that sense, colonial, but she never realized that, and that's okay, you know. She took that from her mother, and this is because of the war, the First and Second World War. That's what they were taught to survive, to do this, to clench it, to keep it in, and to not speak, even when it was necessary, not to speak. Yeah, because oh no, no, but your voice is not that important. You know, be nice, be polite, so you'll get out of trouble. And it was funny. I already knew that when I was a child. When in front of her, I would do it, to, you know, so to make peace, to not have this argument. Then I broke that when I was teenager. And of course, when she's not there, I break this cycle completely, because I knew it's making me sick, actually, if I, you know. For me, a ritual is always a process of healing. It's got to be a process of healing. I don't see, for me, you go through something and something has changed. And it's not something that you can put into words necessarily. You process it, and then you will know later. It will make sense. And not just to you, but the people that accompany with you, with this journey. Well, female energy is not singular, it's multiple. So and it's always changing. I think that female energy knows how to be a matriarch. We still have to learn what is female energy, because a lot of it is unspoken. It's unspoken, it's something, it's a mystique. And you know it in your life, and you're not taught this directly from your mother or your ancestry, but you're taught it directly from your descendants that come after you. And your female energy can only grow and have fed its minerals through the voice and the performativity of your descendants.